Welcome back to the $1 Billion Podcast. This is a somber one today, guys. It's tough. Our America's team, America's quarterback, has fallen again in the playoffs.
Packers are dead.
Yeah, they're dead. If you're
Sports
watching,
are dead.
Sports are dead. They're dumb. They're stupid. I hate them. They're a waste of time.
I don't know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
First of all,
Mm-hmm.
The Green Bay Packers are a stupid organization,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, sports in general. The more I watch them, the more I realize that I could be doing so much good in my life with the time I spend watching sports. Yeah. And I just get so angry. My blood pressure just gets so high for no reason. I'm standing the entire game right to the left of the TV, pointing stuff out to Sarah, who invariably doesn't care at all. But the funny thing is actually, so the Packers lost, horrible loss. I mean, it's a horrible loss in a list of horrible losses over the last 10 years. I mean, it ends horribly every time. And that's the reality of sports, honestly, is that like, there's like one team that's happy at all, and the rest of them have these like horrible moments. Like every single team that was rooting for like this weekend, especially like Bills fans, and everyone. I mean, it's just like Heartbreak City. Bucks fans, if there's Bucks fans out there, they got their hearts ripped out. But I'm like one of those guys. If I'm watching the Packers, if it's going well, I'll like really be into the game, and if things start to turn at all, I really want to turn the channel and not watch it.
What was your reaction to the block punt touchdown? Because that was a shocking play.
Yeah, at that play, I was just laying down. I just got up. At that time, I was still quarantined. So Sarah was on like one side of the couch. I was on the other side of the couch, but on the ground. And I just got up and went back into my own little corner of the house, my own little room, and just shut the door in the room and just sat in the bed where there's no media at all. There's no TV or anything. Because you just knew, man. Like there was this feeling of inevitability with the Packers losing that like I couldn't do anything about it. They're clearly the better team. And the worst part is that like if you've watched the Packers this year, which maybe some of our audience has, what they lost, why they lost today. I mean, there's arguably a couple of reasons, but like the special teams is like, it's been a huge problem every single game this year. And we've somehow manufactured a way to win 13 games despite having literal children on special teams.
Yeah.
And it's to call it a comedy of errors or like a clown show would like be like clown shows are so much more organized than the Green Bay Packers special teams. Did you see? So I didn't notice this, and I didn't watch the end. I didn't watch the field goal. I didn't care. No.
It was so inevitable. It really was.
Yeah. Sarah was sitting out there watching it, and I heard her turn it off, but I didn't watch it. I was sitting in my own room. But I found out that on the last field goal, they had 10 men on the field. The Packers had 10 men on the field. So that's just like the perfect ending to the world's worst special team season of all time. That on the last play to block the field goal to keep your season alive.
Unreal.
They have 10. So you can have 11 for anyone who doesn't know. You can have 11.
And there's no benefit for having one fewer than you're allowed to have.
It's just like, honestly, like JV or like freshman B squad football team errors, and it happened all year. We lost because of it. So this is my official done with football.
Yep.
We've found it. I'm done with football. I will not watch it.
Good.
If we don't do anything fun, so we probably won't. But if we were to go to a Super Bowl party, I would casually watch the game. I would turn into a casual football fan. I will not turn on football for the rest of the year. And I'm on to soccer. I'm on to Liverpool. And that's it.
Oh, man. If I wasn't such a Packers fan, former Packers fan, this would give me more joy. I would be really enjoying this. Just so I'm definitely enjoying it to some degree, but it would have been way worse. So I need to give my official statement as well as a official 2021-2022 Packers fan. It ended this past Sunday, as you can imagine. That franchise is an absolute embarrassment. The way they have wasted Aaron Rodgers' career. If you're watching on YouTube, I have switched my jersey around to have Rodgers on the front. I no longer sport that team on the back. his talents have been absolutely wasted, and them scoring 10 points on offense has zero to do with Aaron Rodgers' performance. The receivers weren't catching the ball. He targeted Devontae Adams many times, and he did not get open and had several drops. The whole team failed around, and the special teams we've already talked about. Poor head coaching, poor leadership. That's what you get from a franchise that's owned by the entire state of Wisconsin. All right, maybe you should have an actual owner of the team leading that squad. So it showed top down. They weren't ready. How many times have they lost a home playoff game now in the last 15 years?
I mean, 7 or 8 or 9.
Yeah, set
10.
your watch to it. I thought Lambeau was a place that was tough to win in, cold. It felt like 0 degrees. They still couldn't even win. Just
unbelievable.
So you didn't see the play on the last drive, San Francisco, where it's 3rd and 7 from the 42, and they did a run to Samuel, a shotgun run, and he somehow got the first down.
This is the exact thing that happened. I was brushing, so I went back. When they got the ball back, when the Niners got the ball, I've blacked out most of this, but I went and I just started brushing my teeth and going through my normal nightly routine while they still had the ball because I knew it was happening. There's 0 point of me watching this. And I happened to step out and I can see it from the kitchen, the TV. And because my thought is that they were running because they were still going to kick the field goal anyway, probably. Mm-hmm. And it's just going to be a long field goal. Yep. Robbie Gould was good for a 70-yard field goal and awesome. Kicked the actual kick.
Nice to have a good kicker, huh?
Yeah. But I thought they were just kind of running it for some yards and, mm-hmm. To run the clock a little bit more and then kick the field goal. I watched that play and I spit out so I was standing over the kitchen sink at this point, brushing with my electric toothbrush. And I just out of disgust and as a involuntary move, I just spit all my stuff out into our kitchen sink and then spent some time cleaning that up and rinsing it down. But I was just so angry. I wanted to spit. That's how angry I was. I was spitting mad at that. You can't. Unbelievable. The defense was actually pretty good that year. Yep. Or yesterday.
They gave up 3 points.
Yeah, dude. I'm getting angry again about it, Matt.
That was the goal.
I would like to move on.
That is the goal, and once we got there, we'll move on. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, sports are stupid. They're dumb. There's way better uses of our time than this. What kind of idiot would spend themselves 4 hours on a perfectly good weekend day getting all worked up over some stupid game ball that you have no influence over? That makes no difference in your life. This doesn't make sense. We have a lot going on, Matt.
My sister drove to the game and was there and was and then she had to drive back that night, and I just can't imagine. It's unbelievable what they put us through, these teams.
Yeah, I know, and especially in the freezing cold, right? You're just dying for 4 hours. Yes. You're tailgating even before that. Then you have a cold, sad drive home as you listen to Wisconsin talk radio, which I can imagine is a special brand of hell. You're just just kill me already. I mean, this isn't even worth living. All right, well, let's move on to some other NFL stuff because it was actually one of the best weekends at NFL playoff that I can remember. I mean, the Chiefs-Bills shootout, and it's just, I feel so terribly for the people in Buffalo. I mean, they've just been through so much. The 4 Super Bowls that they didn't win, and then just years of mediocrity, and they finally get their quarterback, and he's the guy, and he's the next star, and they still can't win. It's just I'm so sad for them.
You don't mean that at all.
I'm so sad for them. I mean, this is just their whole, think about it. It's very similar to Green Bay, Wisconsin. No offense to the people up there, but not a lot going on. Buffalo, New York, same deal. Your lives kind of revolve around this team. When this team loses, you're just devastated and your life's over. And I take no solace in that, and I really am sad for them.
You take an incredible amount of solace in Buffalo being sad.
Yeah, I love them losing. That's so good. Oh, man, I hate Buffalo.
Did you watch the game?
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
Oh, that was true because it was after your sports embargo.
Yeah, I'm dead serious about not watching football. I've seen enough highlights and seen enough stuff where I feel like I watched it. What was this? What was the earlier game that day? Or was that what was the order of games?
That was the Bucks game was the first game that day, and that's when I turned off. I thought it was over, and then I look back and I'm like, oh, they lost by 3. How the hell did Brady get them back? But I want to go through this Buffalo game real quick. So Buffalo scores a touchdown, take a 3-point lead. There are 13 seconds on the clock. Okay. Now,
I did see this.
If you watch football at all, that is not enough time to take the ball from the 25 to the 35 to kick a field goal. That just isn't enough time.
The other 35.
Like 50, 60 yards. So rather than, the common thing you do in that scenario is you do a squib kick. So you kick it low, so the defense has to field it and play and run it a little before the clock stops. So you waste 3 or 4 seconds. So that means at, say, call it 9 seconds, they can run one play, call a timeout, and they can only run one more play.
Right.
Because they kicked it through the end zone, they got that at the 25 with 13 seconds left, allowing them to run 2 forward pass plays, and then it's still have time for a field goal. One of the most baffling, I guess he kicked it through the end zone. I'm like, what are you doing, Sean McDermott?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Just like pop it up, right? Or like squib kick it, or up in the air.
Anything so that they have to move, they have to catch the ball and move it, or at least catch the ball and fall down. Like,
yeah.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then I compared that to the Dallas game we talked about, which kind of a similar scenario when they did the stupid QB draw. And they're just so much smarter in Kansas City. They do a kind of a check down to Tyreek Hill, who, by the way, is the fastest human alive. And I will hear none of, like, he is the fastest human I've ever seen in my life.
He's
like,
insane.
He makes good athletes seem like middle school players.
Yeah.
So they pass to him. He gets a good, 18 yards. And then they do another mistake where, okay, they have the ball at, the 40-yard line, their own 40. And there's probably 9 seconds left. And they have a timeout, Kansas City. They guard the sidelines and leave the middle of the field open. What are you doing? They have a timeout. The middle field's wide open. Kelsey runs for 30 yards, wide open, and then they're in field goal range. It's like,
that's how it happened.
Yeah, it was incredible.
So that was just to get into overtime, and then Kansas City won the toss and just marched down the field.
Yeah, I mean, in the middle of the fourth quarter, there was a ton of points scored at the very end. The defenses were absolutely gassed. They weren't stopping anyone. So as soon as whoever won the coin toss was going to win, it was guaranteed.
What do we think about NFL overtime rules?
I'm fine with it. I think there's an opportunity to change overtime rules for the playoffs only. I think everyone would be on board with that. But what would you change it to? What is more fair?
I think the only thing, like you said, is change it for the playoffs only.
Yeah.
And give it so, if they score a touchdown, then the other team has to score a touchdown.
Yeah, that's not bad. And then after that, the field goal can win it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not terrible. I don't
just
mind
to give, even if they score a touchdown, they at least have a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm on board with that. Because everyone was sad. Josh Allen, he played one of the best games of quarterback I've ever seen. He was just incredible. It makes me very scared for the next 10 years of being a Patriots fan in that division.
He's good, man.
Yeah, he's really good. He runs the ball. You literally can't stop him. He's 250 and he's fast, and you just can't stop him. It's not fair for someone to be that big and that athletic.
Agreed.
Anyways,
what they say about you?
I mean, that's
on the basketball court.
No, that's what they say about
or
our
not.
chip.
Let's talk about the most recent shared practice basketball game.
Yeah, so you all saw us dying last week, which was really sad because Matt was
still not quite. I'm probably 98% now, but it took me a long time, man.
Yeah, I mean, I still have phlegm. You can probably hear it in my voice. It's still in there.
Yeah,
that was it was no joke. It was 4 days, I would say, of being pretty miserable. I didn't leave my bed for probably 4 days.
Yep, same.
It sucked.
Yeah,
it really sucked.
I remember. But the game. So we didn't go to the game.
Yeah,
that was the day of the game, right?
Yeah.
When we recorded last time.
Yeah. So Matt and I both weren't there. Dylan, who's on our team, wasn't there. Sean wasn't there, also on our team. So the ragtag group of guys I find on Facebook to play with us won by 30. So not a great sign for your boy here.
So are these new guys on the team full time now? They have to be now, right?
Yeah.
Do they own the team?
Yeah, the new guys.
They work for shared practices now. We think you have to
I don't know what kind. I don't have a jersey for them. So I don't know what they were wearing. Didn't say shared practices. But yeah, we found some ringers, or they found some ringers, and apparently we're good now. So we have a game tonight, which I very much expect us to win.
Oh, you're going?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm back. It's time. I mean,
I wish we could podcast directly after the game.
Well, that's why
you are so hyped up at basketball games that
oh my God, this one guy on our team who's super friendly and really wants to get to know you, but kind of in an awkward way. He'll hey Matt, what do you like doing for fun? Or what do you, when you're not playing basketball, what do you like doing? And so he pulls that shit to me after we just lose by 25. And I'm like, listen, man, not the time. Can you ask me another time? I'm kind of fuming over here.
You only knew who he was talking to.
Yeah. He's like, you're always so serious. Why don't you smile at all? I'm like, just this is, I've hated this line of questioning my entire life. Don't be the latest one. that does this to me.
Oh boy.
I mean,
you do like really get intense in basketball though.
But you're kind of that, like, you're a bit like me, and like you're a bit more stoic or whatever. And when people say, "Why don't you smile more?" That's just like you're just asking for it for me to hate you. Like, do you feel that same way, or is that just me?
Yeah, I mean, you're probably more intense than I am about it, but it's just like a stupid question.
It's just such a dumb question. Why are you the way that you are?
Yeah.
I don't fucking know, years of childhood trauma, or like I'm suppressing my emotion. Like, whatever, man. Like, shut up. Let me be my own person.
Especially after you lose.
I know. Like, it's so. Anyways, but he's just like super nice guy. But yeah, we're back. We're gonna win tonight. I think we have a real shot at this.
Let's go.
Yeah,
come on.
I know. Bring some glory to this company for goddamn once.
Yeah, one time. One time.
Yeah, so here we are. We're COVID free. We're back. It's sad not being able to do this in person. It's a lot more of a nice dynamic.
It's way more fun in person. Well, last time was not fun at all, but like just in general, it's fun sitting on the couch and.
No, in a way, it was actually kind of fun last time. I enjoyed my monotone voice and my slowness, and I kind of liked it. I might just bring that back as my normal motif.
I had to, when I re-listened to our episode, I had to like max volume my voice because I couldn't hear what I was saying. Quiet. I was so quiet. I had no idea. I thought my voice was like cool and low, and turns out I was just like really like not cool at all.
I just couldn't hear you. All right, so we got some stuff today. Matt, tease what you have going on for us later in the episode.
We have. You want me to run down how I think we should do the episode?
Yeah, go for it. I'm happy.
Okay, so we're gonna hit COVID corner here coming up. We're coming in hot to COVID corner. Okay. Probably a minute or two we'll get into COVID corner. Mm-hmm. I have a question for Matt Guarino about COVID corner. I don't know if he's seen it yet, but I think it'll be a cool, interesting thing to talk about. Mm-hmm. We have a really good question from a listener that I saw that I haven't really like thought about that much, but I'll think about it when Matt is reading it to me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go into a little bit more of what they talked about in episode 2 of that podcast as far as exercise and hot and cold therapy and other stuff for longevity. Just a couple pointers. And then I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I think we'll wrap up there.
Cool. All right. Getting into COVID corner. I think where I currently stand with COVID corner is I've gone through the 10 stages of grief. And where I'm at on the list is sadness. So like this, like everything I see about it still going on is just making me sad. It used to make me angry, used to make me fired up. Now I'm just kind of like, I'm beaten down a bit. This is getting a long time here.
What are we? What is this? This is January.
Yeah. I mean, 5th. This is about 2 years ago today. I was reading about on Reddit some virus in Wuhan, China. Like
I remember reading about it on Reddit too.
That's the stage we're in. And I'm just like, you know, it's encouraging. It's both encouraging and annoying that my viewpoints are now coming out in more of like common mainstream ways. You see more support for them than you ever have. So part of me is encouraged by that and happy. Part of me is just like, where the fuck were you? Like, we knew all this stuff 18 months ago, and I've been shouting about it on this program for 6 months. Like, this is not new data. This is not new anything. So it's just like, I think it's more frustrating than anything else.
Is there anything that's particularly upsetting you today?
Yes, there are. Thank you for asking. There are 2 things that really got me going. So I'm a former New Yorker, proud to have left that state. A lot to do for their COVID policies and what I saw coming, because I left kind of in it was an early fall. It wasn't too bad up there. I saw what was coming in the winter, and it did. So in a good and bad piece of news, the New York Supreme Court. So if you don't understand the court structures of New York, I'm gonna teach you a little bit. The Supreme Court is actually the lowest court level, whatever we were going to call it. So this is just the initial court ruling. So they struck down Governor Hochul's mask mandates in businesses and in schools. Huge win for common sense. Mandating people put something on their face that has been proven to be ineffective, especially the 2-ply ones, is just ridiculous. What got me fired, especially for kids, right. And I don't need to go in the reasons why masks are extremely harmful for children. But what gets me fired up is now the Commissioner of Education is coordinating the superintendents in school districts in New York to email all the parents with the same kind of verbiage about how, no, we're appealing this decision, so you need to keep sending your child a mask. Now, appealing a decision on the Supreme Court in a state level does not overrule the ruling of the Supreme Court. So what they're doing is both unlawful, misleading, and dangerous. I saw many personal anecdotes on Twitter about parents who showed up with their child unmasked, stopped at the door by the security guard. Principal was called saying, you can't go in unless you put on a mask. In those cases that I saw, the parents stuck with it and the child was allowed in. So they have no grounds to hold this thing. But it's just the fact at all the lengths they're willing to go to keep people in mass, and specifically children. Like this governor, Hochul, is just the worst. And I know I've called a lot of people the worst on this show. She is the worst. Like imagine just overriding a judicial system in your state as a governor. Like what kind of leadership is that?
So how can they get away with just openly not adhering to the Supreme Court ruling?
Because it's the same way that businesses do it when there wasn't actually a vaccine mandate through OSHA in place. They just do it. That's it.
And hope that
you're fine. Yeah.
It's like forgiveness later.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just
That's
I mean,
frustrating.
there's an elementary school on my street back in New York, and just seeing them being dropped off by parents in mass, going to school in mass with their sparkly little, like tiny mask on their little face. It's just so disheartening.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. The next thing is, I've talked on this show, I think, a bit about the use of monoclonal antibodies as a treatment for COVID, preventing hospitalizations and deaths. It is very effective on the Alpha and Delta variants of COVID. It's less effective on the Omicron. Now, as we've seen Omicron kind of take more prevalence in this country, we still have Delta going on, and Delta is still responsible for a good amount of hospitalizations. It's a more deadly strain.
Right.
What Biden has just done is stripped the emergency authorization use of two main monoclonal antibodies, thus requiring states like Florida, who push this treatment to their population, to close those sites because they can no longer get access to those medications.
Interesting.
What he's doing there, he's using a political tact to hurt governors who have come out and been supporting of early COVID treatments like monoclonal antibodies, because this goes along with their playbook of that pushes vaccine hesitancy. Everything has to be vaccine. Treatments are very, you never hear them talk about other treatments. They will go far and away to degrade the use of other treatments. And, so doctors just can't get this anymore. It's just shocking, like that they would go to such lengths to prevent early treatment due to political things.
That is really interesting. This whole thing has kind of reshaped my view on politics in general. I think I've always used to be just kind of go with the flow and do whatever. And, I don't really care about that much. Right. Mm-hmm. So I just think, well, hey, not really hurting me. Don't really care, whatever, throw on a mask or whatever the case is. But now I'm seeing so many instances that are blatantly, that all falls apart when you realize that, especially in this situation, that the people telling you what to do don't really know what to do, or they're either kind of guessing, best case they're guessing, worst case they're misleading type of deal.
Yeah.
So now I am so much more on just everyone being able to make decisions for themselves. If you still want to I still think if you're, if you have comorbidities and you want to protect yourself, sure, wear a mask if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. We have vaccines now, we have natural immunity now. It should be so much more personal freedoms. And that's why I am happy to live, that's why I told you on a couple podcasts, I'm more and more happy to live in South Dakota. That's why, because we just have so much more ability to choose. There's still people, we still have people in Sioux Falls. There's, the downtown scene of Sioux Falls is still, I would say, kind of a little bit more wants you still to mask and stuff and whatever, but you don't have to either. It's one of those things where it's if we would prefer you to, but we're not going to make a huge deal about it if you don't. So I did read though that the very best protection you can have against coming variants of COVID is a mRNA vaccine and natural immunity from actually getting the thing. So me and you,
we're set up good.
We're good to go. Better than the booster.
It only took 1 week of wanting to kill ourselves due to our sickness. But, we made it through. Yeah. We made it through the other side.
I think I would trade it knowing that, but there was time during the week where I was I think I'm done with this. Didn't seem like I was ever going to get better for a second there.
Yeah, no, going back to what you said, it shows the value of having states in this country, right? We have, we all live in the same country, but we have freedom to live in any state. And I think this just has really made it way more important which state you do live in, right? Like, I mean, if I was still back in Boston in dental school or something, I would have to have a booster shot eventually to get into a restaurant. Like, could not eat at a restaurant had it on a booster shot. And what the Democratic leaders in those states and cities are doing is it's for one, a losing strategy. It's for two, it's completely degrading to their people that they're governing. Like, it's completely taking away free choice away from them and not valuing them as humans and treating them like children, honestly. Right. So it's going to backfire. I mean, it will. I mean, it's just human nature. Like, it's going to I mean, Biden's approval rating is the lowest it's ever been. I think I saw it at 38 on a Harvard poll just recently, 38%. So bloodbath coming, man. Give it. Let's see.
It's hovering around Trump numbers.
Oh yeah. There's. I might set a countdown on my phone to Election Day in November. I think I'm going to do that. That's going to be a big day. I mean, if you don't like my views on certain politics things in this show, you may want to skip those episodes around November. Just FYI.
How has COVID shaped your political view overall? Because like I am still able to like separate things and whatever, but like it seems to me that you have like this has shaped you deeper than just talking about vaccines.
Yeah, it definitely has, and it's kind of unfortunate because there's certain parts about the Republican Party that I really find distasteful, specifically their stance on abortion and their stuff with critical race theory. I think is weird too. I think they obsess about immigration too, which I normally am not super top of mind. I do think that we have a bit of an issue on our southern border.
Sure.
But yeah, there's just those parts of the party that I don't really support, and obviously I don't support the Trumper side of things, which seems to be more and more prevalent in the party. So it's almost like I don't have a great landing spot for me. Like I can't go back to being a Democrat. I mean, those days are over. Like they have completely failed me, and I never will support that party again. But doesn't mean I won't support a certain person who's in the Democratic Party who might think differently. But it have to be someone new because everyone who's been in government is now not one Democrat is spoken out ever.
Yeah.
There's been people who have been more moderate, but so yeah, I mean, I definitely fall on the red side more of things now, but not super happy about that.
That's interesting. This is a really good transition to what I wanted to ask you about COVID. We talk about draconian measures a lot. We talk about lockdowns. We talk about early interventions and stuff. Mm-hmm. But then there's this little country called Sweden.
Yeah.
Sweden, as you may know, is a Nordic country that has, I mean, for the most part, didn't change their way of life at all. There's maybe some measures in certain restaurants where you sat a little bit further. They spaced out tables a little more. Maybe they did a little bit with nursing homes and older population, but like schools have never closed. The way of life has never changed. I was reading something about how like Sweden, like the kids there can't relate to a lot of like the TikTok and Instagram stuff of American kids saying how they're like, how like COVID has kind of shaped their high school and stuff. They can't relate to that. Yep. What has been your take when you first heard about what Sweden was doing? And like just now following up, because I have a couple stats that are just interesting that it really proves that what Sweden did, they were justified in doing what they did.
Yep.
But I'm just interested to hear your take, like from the very beginning of like when you first heard about that there was a country doing this.
Yeah, I mean, preaching to the choir here. So as I got more into this stuff, I paid closer attention on places that were doing things differently. That's why I talk about Florida a lot. South Dakota and Sweden was the big example in kind of the European countries that was doing something differently. Like you said, they didn't lock down. They didn't have mass mandates. They only recently, and I was really sad to see this, did stuff with vaccine passports. I don't know how far they took it, but they did introduce something, which was shocking. But yeah, and I was constantly looking at how are they comparing to their neighbors, to Norway and Finland, and people who would have similar seasonality spikes and drops. And this is the same thing I do with Florida. I compare Florida to something like Georgia, who has Atlanta, who has more of a blue-leaning policies. And you see it time and time again that they don't fare any differently throughout the whole curves. They peak when the same time. They have the same amounts of hospitalizations and deaths. And I don't know the final numbers. They may have even performed a little better. But they really did what Martin Kulldorff did, who's actually Swedish, the guy one of the writers of the Great Barrington Declaration, of prioritizing protecting elderly, and not imposing strict restrictions on their citizens and mainly children. Like, I mean, I think the results speak for themselves. Hopefully you have some.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things that are interesting about this. So the total mortality per capita since the beginning of the pandemic in Sweden is 1 out of 663. Mm-hmm. Compare that to the United States, 1 out of 387. Mm-hmm. So they're, and that is total mortality. So that's not just COVID, but it's an interesting stat because there's this whole thing about how in Sweden, in the United States, it's hard to find numbers on this, but the not accidental, but just like supplemental deaths to COVID deaths from opioids, from mental health, from suicides, from that kind of stuff. The Swedish numbers on those kind of things are as low as they've ever been. There's no spike at all in any of those deaths, right? Like the U.S. went up in COVID deaths, and subsequently it also went up in other deaths kind of surrounding, that, right? Whereas in Sweden, like they might have had a little spike in COVID deaths, but there was never like that. Those other deaths that were like kind of surrounding COVID, people being in despair because they lost their job, or like kids getting depressed and killing themselves because they had to wear masks, whatever the case is. So I think that is really like where, and the long-term effects of that, I feel like they're going to be so much better off. And like I said, the kids go on TikTok and they can't relate to these kids in the United States. They always want to be like the kids in the United States and like do the stuff, but they're like, well, I feel like we are better off in school for the last couple of years because of this, So I mean, it's such an interesting stat.
Every restrictive measure comes at a cost, right? Like you are giving something up when you do these kind of things. You're prioritizing, everything you can do to protect against COVID, but you're also giving up, early cancer screenings, mental health, suicide, on down the list. Stuff. Like all of that. I saw a chart on Twitter earlier of, all the years of drug overdose and suicide between the ages of 13 and 18, pretty much similar, huge spike in 2020, just like complete outlier. And that's not a coincidence. I mean, like we have destroyed the lives of people in school. Everything just got shifted to phones, video games, indoors, not seeing people, seeing their friends virtually. And that's not a way for a child to interact and socialize and grow. So yeah, I mean, it's very comforting that there were countries like Sweden who did things differently. So we have the control. We have this thing to compare it to.
And I think the messaging from the very beginning in Sweden, as far as I can tell, was very. There's more just inherent trust with the Swedes and their government, I think, than there is in the United States for a lot of reasons. Yeah. But then also like the people that they put at the forefront to talk about COVID from the very beginning were. Remember how we were talking about like advocates versus scientists? Mm-hmm. Like they went heavily on the side of scientists. We're going to talk about COVID, and there's going to be no politics involved in it, right? And that just thinking about that, like if we could have possibly gone back and like just done one thing over, if we could have just done that one thing over to get just get smarter people talking that have no other agendas and stuff from the very beginning, like it's such a huge difference that like. I'm jealous of that, I really am.
Yeah, I'm. My final point on this, I'm just ready for something to be done in the correct way. Like anything in society, in governance, something that is like, that's a smart move. That's what I could really understand the logic behind that. Can we get one example of this?
Amen to that.
Come on. All right, we'll move on. We got other stuff to cover. That was cool. All right, let's
go for corner.
Let's
go to our question.
Yeah, let's talk to a question. A little beefy one. So this is more of a financial wellness question, and we'd love your take. I'm a second-year dental student. Currently have $150,000 I inherited. Good on you.
Congrats.
It's currently just sitting in an investment portfolio, not using any of it for school or living expenses. Very nice. Goal is to buy a practice in the $750,000 to $1 million range about a year after graduating. So call it about 3 years from now. Yep. If you were in this situation, what would you do with the money? What would you do with the money now, at the time of acquisition, further down the road? I understand the benefits of leveraging debt, and I'm not debt averse when it makes sense to take it on. This was an attendee of our ABPO. Thank you for coming, and totally invested into the Shared Praxis pool of thought. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is a really good question.
So in the question part of this, I'm a little confused. So I think this person is asking, do I do anything differently with the money, pretty much?
Right. My initial reaction is to do nothing different than he's already doing with the money, right? Here's what you shouldn't do with the money. Like he said, pay directly for school with it, or pay directly for I mean, theoretically, you could make the argument to pay for living expenses with it, but you can get a loan for that. And loans, I think now are cheaper. I don't know. What is like a standard? Do you know what a standard dental school loan is now?
It's still federal. It's probably in the 6-7% still. I mean,
yeah, so it's still fairly
well.
high.
It's zero until at least May.
Right. So I think you're doing already exactly what I would be doing this. Now, you said in the question that you want to buy a practice, a big-ish, a bigger size practice, $750 to $1 million range about a year after school. Well, we talk about all the time in our classes and on the podcast, our other podcast, Shared Practices podcast. But what are banks looking for, right? For you to buy a practice, they want you to have production history. They want you to have a little bit of a business plan about what you're going to do with a specific office. They want you to buy a office that already has cash flow and stuff. But they also, a big thing is that they want you to have liquidity, and not even liquidity that they actually need as a down payment, but they just want to see liquidity on paper. Yep. And it makes them feel a lot warmer and fuzzier about lending on the deal. Mm-hmm. So what I would do is continue to just put it in a relatively, I would say, moderate investment portfolio, and not super conservative, not super aggressive, because you're still going to want the money to be able to show in a couple of years. Yep. And freaking anything. You could put it in QQQ or VT Sachs or one of these like really famous, these big index funds or something like that. Go on Vanguard and just do it yourself, and just have the money liquid for you. And all this time while you're in school, I'll be making a little bit of money. You'll probably be getting, the market right now is weird, but over the last 2 years, if you had this money just standing in one of these standard index funds, you probably would have made 20% on your money.
I think VT Stacks over the last year was close to almost 20.
Yeah. And like I said, it's kind of like right this second, we've had like a week of like a fairly down market. So it's like an interesting timing of this question. But really, I mean, you don't with something like this, you're not going to be timing the markets. It doesn't really matter if it's 150 or if it's 150 in 3 years, or if it's 140 in 3 years, or 190. Like, that is not super important. But I think just leaving it, time in the market is better than timing the market. That's the old saying.
Yeah.
I would just put it in probably where you already have it, but just have it as an after-tax account, not in like a 401k or anything like that. Like, have it in something that is able to be drawn out of if you need to, even though the bank will never ask you to. But you can, when the bank asks you for your money, it asks you, how much money do you have in cash? How much money do you have in, pre-taxed accounts like a 401k or
something,
or Roth, right? Then how much do you have in after-tax, just like brokerage accounts? Well, the after-tax brokerage accounts and the cash are the two things they really care about, because those are the things that are like liquid enough for them to get if they needed to, right? Yep. They don't need to, but if they needed to. So, very long way to say, I wouldn't, unless you have super high interest debt, obviously maybe, if you have 10% credit card debt, yes, pay that down, right? Maybe. But if you don't have something like that, I'll just leave it in the account and let it sit until you have some liquidity by the time the practice rolls around.
Yeah, I think you covered everything I would say. I mean, this is pretty much the exact scenario that I was in before I bought my office. My wife inherited a similar amount, had an investment account, and it was a big reason I was able to get a $1.25 million loan, soon after residencies. Because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have got it. I mean, and that all that took was getting my name attached to the account. Like, which is what I recommend for people who are not in this scenario for themselves. Like, take a loan from your parents, get attached to one of your parents' accounts, get attached to your spouse's. Like, any little thing you can just literally show on paper, I'm an owner of this account, and then you remove it right after.
Right.
I mean, they're not going to check again on your financial status. They're just going to care about what's going on in the practice.
Good point.
So yeah, the listener here, you're right in the right place. I would keep doing what you're doing.
Yep. Agreed.
All right. Let's go through some of your episode 2 Peter Attia. No, David Sinclair.
This is David Sinclair. Yeah. This is a little bit of Peter Attia stuff too, but they're all, they all kind of speak the same language. So this episode talked a little bit more about exercise specifically, and then some kind of hot and cold therapies that you could do. Also some like hyperbaric oxygen and other stuff that I won't get super into, but
as you go through this, point out like what is really important, what's going to make a decent difference versus what is just like a kind of a good practice.
I think the very most important thing. So last week we talked about food. Mm-hmm. Eating is eating and exercise are 1 and 1A as far as like most important things. So these first things I'm going to talk about, I think are super vital. And I'll give you stats as to why. And this was from another different podcast. I can't remember who's, I'm pretty sure it's Piotia, but I can't exactly remember. So Matt, if you are a smoker or if you have diabetes, that will, depending on a bunch of different variables, that will either double or triple your risk of death, right? And not risk of death.
That's
like
crazy.
I mean, you're going to die no matter what, but like it'll be happen faster because of that, right? So either one of those two things. And obviously if you do them both, there's a synergistic effect. 2 or 3 times. And that is like, those are probably the two things that affect your health the most. Obesity is maybe another 2 times, increase in incidence of death. I just thought this was so interesting. Having a elite VO2 max. So VO2 max is kind of like the amount of oxygen that your lungs can carry, or your blood cells can carry. That will give you a 5 times reduction in all-cause mortality.
Wow.
So it is literally the strongest drug you could possibly take, strongest supplement you could possibly take. Nothing else even comes close.
Let's dive into that a little more. So how would one measure their VO2? Is there prescribed good numbers for different age groups?
Yeah.
Sexes?
So like you can have, if you've seen like the guys with that are like on the treadmills that have like the masks and stuff on, all that stuff. There are like there's more at home stuff. I don't know if you ever watch soccer and you watch at the end of the game, the players take off their jerseys and it looks like they're wearing bras.
No.
Have you ever noticed that? Especially like European soccer.
Maybe.
They're like kind of like sports bra type things. They're monitors. They're doing heart rate and a bunch of stuff, but they're also monitoring their cardiovascular health as well at the same time. So there are ways to do this. Now, the most practical way to do this, we talked about it a little bit in an earlier episode, but the steps to getting an elite VO2 max is mostly zone 2 training. We talked about that, right? So you're going to probably, if this is really important to you, and I should mention this too. If you have someone in your life that like you really like, maybe they're overweight or something and they just have no motivation, you can tell them that like going from 0 to having just going from 0 to just starting working out, you will have a huge increase in lifespan. Then each incremental thing from that, like you're getting, lesser and lesser diminishing returns. Like if once you get to the very top level, it doesn't really get a whole lot better than, this elite VO2 max, but going from 0 to just walking twice a week will like massively impact your life. Damn. Right? So just doing anything to get out of a sedentary lifestyle, a completely sedentary lifestyle, that's why people I think are so frustrated sometimes. When it's like, literally, if you just do anything, if you ride a stationary bike, if you walk upstairs, whatever the case is, like it's such a big deal. But anyway, so this coming at this, you want to do, if you're getting serious enough, so you're an athlete and you want to get serious about this, which I think is just a good athletic protocol anyway, you would do zone 2 training, preferably 4 times a week, preferably 30 to 45 minutes each time, which is a lot, but this is if we want to get elite VO2 max. Then what you would do is you would have one workout where this is a ATP depletion workout. You're going for a HIIT workout, 10, 15 minutes of kind of all-out intervals. Peter Attia says these 4x4, so you have one session of VO2 max training per week, the 4x4 protocol where you go 4 minutes as hard as you can on whatever you're doing, stair climber, bike, running, whatever it is. 4 minutes. So it's not like all out, right? All out means you can only do it for 20 seconds, right? So you're going as hard as you can possibly go for 4 minutes. Then you're going to kind of go back to just like a standard, like if I'm biking, I would go super, super hard for 4 minutes, go back to just kind of like easy pedaling, super, super hard for 4 minutes, do that 5 times, right? And that will give you kind of the peak amount of training in your VO2 max. So when Peter Attia gets a patient.
Wait. Let me make sure I got this correctly. So that's.
Go ahead.
4 minutes, 4 times. You do 5 sets of those?
You do the hard 4 minutes 5 times.
Okay, you do it 5 times.
Yeah. So it's a total of 40 minutes-ish.
So when it says 4x4, is it 4 minutes hard, fast, and then 4 minutes
4 minutes off? Yeah, kind of just like easy pedaling. Or like you're sprinting on the treadmill, and then you're walking on the treadmill. That kind of thing.
That's interesting. Yeah, when I've done this, a variation of this, it was more like the 1 minute, 1 minute. But I like this 4 minute thing.
Yeah. So, and it, cause like you said, or like he said, it trains you to like not go all out. You're not like absolutely sprinting for 4 minutes. You're just like running pretty. I mean, like if you run pretty hard, you're going to be dead in 4 minutes, you know, at least I am.
If you're running like a 7.5, 8 on the treadmill for 4 minutes, I mean, that's pretty good pace.
Yeah. You're breathing hard.
Yeah.
And so if you can do that, the best possible thing is if you can do 3 hours a week at your zone 2 and then 20 to 30 minutes a week at your VO2 max, that will give you your best chance at getting to this elite level of VO2 max. So when Peter Tia onboards a patient, he pushes his patients to be, I think I heard this on the Joe Rogan podcast actually when he was on there, but he pushes his patients to be, so if they're 55, he pushes them to be whatever a 45-year-old would be, and then he elite 45-year-old. So that's what he doesn't allow them to kind of like skate by. So like if you and I went on there, we're 33, he would push us to whatever a 23-year-old is, and then go to the elite level of the 23-year-old. And those are the measurements that we would have to get to be in his program. So it's just a way to push you like past, probably what you're comfortable with. But outside of cardiovascular health, the other thing that we've talked about a little bit is strength and muscle mass. They kind of go hand in hand a little bit. Strength is equally as important as muscle mass. Obviously, bigger muscles, you'll probably be stronger, but like there's just certain body types where you probably won't have like massive muscles, where strength is still very, very important. So weight training is still very important. Some of the easiest things to kind of measure are your grip strength. That's we talked about that already, but that's a big indicator of how long you're going to live. How long you can dead hang from a bar. Matt, do you have any idea if you just hang on a bar right now, how long you could dead hang?
I actually do know. So I went to it was a FanDuel fan fest in Phoenix like a couple months ago, and they had all these like games that you could win. It was really fun. You actually would love this. You get a certain number of points and you bet, however many you want on each thing. So one of them was how long can you hang on a bar, and they had intervals of 30, 60, 90 seconds, and I did the 61. That was actually pretty easy. I probably could have gone for...
Really?
Yeah. You would be surprised. It wasn't that bad at all. I probably could have gone... I probably could have hit almost 2 minutes.
I've done 60 once, and I thought that was really hard.
Try it again. It's not that bad.
I should try it again. So he pushes his males to be 2 minutes, his females to be 1.5 minutes.
Yeah. I think I could do 2 minutes.
Maybe I'm going to work on that.
Yeah.
But then the other thing David Sinclair talks about, too, is that, like, again, if you want to build, large muscles, you certainly can. But like working on the actual large muscles of your body give you the biggest benefit. So
makes sense.
He works hard on, leg extensions with quads and hamstrings and deadlifts and like these big compound lifts, squats, that kind of stuff. Because the mitochondrial action in these big muscles, obviously there's more bang for your buck working on these big muscles, right? Yeah. I think that would be a general training protocol is four times of 45 minutes at zone 2. If we were going like our perfect week, we'd train 4 times at zone 2 cardiovascularly. We'd go 1 time at the VO2 max cardiovascularly, and then we would probably lift anywhere between 3 to 5 days a week interspersed in those, either before or after the cardio work.
I want to talk through how I can make this work. So I feel like the basketball can be that VO2 max kind of training.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously not like super strict following that, but
I agree.
It's going all out. It's resting when there's free throws or stoppages, whatever. Yep. 4 times zone 2. That's tough. I think I get like consistently 2 a week.
You know how you could do it?
How?
You and Ellen going on a walk.
Yeah.
More often.
We do.
Maybe after dinner. There is a really, really compelling thing David Sinclair was talking about actually walking after dinner.
After food.
We talked about that too.
Can I really get to zone 2 walking?
I think fast enough.
You think?
Measure your heart rate.
Yeah.
It says it on your heart rate.
I'd be really surprised. So what is...
You have to power walk. You have to power walk.
What is zone 2 for you?
I measure it in terms of watts on the Peloton, so I don't exactly...
You don't know the heart rate things?
No.
I want to say mine is like... And Whoop's really good about this. When you do an activity and they record it, they'll tell you how many minutes you spent in zone 2.
Yeah, right.
I think mine's like 130-ish, kind of somewhere around there.
So you may not be able to
I don't think
walking.
I can. One thing
Hiking,
that has been really good... Yeah, I mean, we do a weekly hike, so that can be one of them. Walking on golf, was a great one. I mean, obviously that was way longer than you needed here, but like I'm in zone 2 walking a golf course pretty much almost all of it.
I agree. Yeah. Whoops went crazy when I golfed.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's some like weirdness with Whoop, and when you're swinging, I think it's over exaggerating how much you're straining.
Especially you.
Yeah. But like when you're walking a course and there's hills and you're definitely in there for a lot of it. That's tough though. For
I think go for one more hike.
Yeah.
Do another hike. A short hike.
Yeah. Okay.
Doesn't have to be a rigorous hike.
Let me go from 2 to 3 and see if I can do that.
Right.
And then
one all-out workout.
Yeah, and then
the 4 on 4 off thing.
Yeah. Well, I'll do the basketball for that. That'll be close enough.
That's true. Okay.
And then I can do the 3 to 5 lifting days. That's not too bad.
Perfect.
Yeah, and the only other thing that's kind of off of my goals versus this is I am definitely pushing. And I've gone through iterations where this was different, but I'm pushing muscle mass over strength right now. I'm doing less compound lifts than I ever have. I'm doing more like I don't squat anymore. I do hack squats. I do more leg extensions, more leg curls than I would. I still do a deadlift a week, but I don't bench. I do much more like cable flies or I'm purely going for size. So that's not super what he's prescribing here.
Yeah, but it's not super far off either. I mean, it's in the same ballpark. There is an interesting quote that I had written down from Peter Tia. I'm just going to read it to the audience. If you know someone who had a low cardiorespiratory fitness and didn't want to take the steps that were necessary to get into even average or above average fitness, you'd be able to say to them, do you realize that the choice that you're making is more illogical than a smoker who continues to smoke? And it's not even comparable. In comparison in terms of hazard ratio of death, it's not even comparable to a smoker that continues to smoke. So I just think that's an interesting way to frame it.
So it would be better to be a smoker who continues to smoke than it would be someone who doesn't exercise. That is insane.
Dude, it's a 5 times reduction. He said, like, I mean, if you could prescribe that in a drug, it would be, you could charge, $100,000 a prescription and people would pay for it,
No money in preventative measures here, but sorry, big pharma is not getting rich off someone walking 4 times a week.
So dumb.
They're actually making less money. That's incredible. I mean, that's. I hope everyone took that in because that's shocking.
It's an eye opener. Yeah. The other quick thing. So hot and cold therapy.
Yeah.
These kind of work in the same general. We talked about the term hormesis last time on the podcast, which is essentially the biological. What doesn't kill you make you stronger. If you stress your body in the right ways, it creates these kind of defense mechanisms in terms of genes and proteins and stuff that kind of help you. So the mechanisms that drive kind of like the sauna part of it. So what they do is they activate these heat shock proteins. Have you ever heard of heat shock proteins?
Heard the name.
So they're kind of like essentially what heat shock proteins help with is a couple things. So like they're anti-inflammatory, they decrease blood pressure, and there's also just like general cardiovascular health is better. But the reason why this happens is because it activates AMPK. AMPK is the thing that we talked about. Yeah, it's this thing that it kind of regulates the homeostasis of your cells, right? So we want AMPK to be activated as easily as possible. We talked about fasting will do that. But this is just another, kind of relatively easy way. Sauna therapy or hot therapy is a way to relatively easily activate the AMPK in your body. Similarly, cold kind of does the same thing. One interesting, so I won't talk about, it's pretty much the same thing, just the opposite. There's cold shock proteins instead of heat shock proteins. So again, essentially the same thing. But you have 2 different kinds of fats in your body. You have white fat and brown fat. And what cold therapy does is they found
don't discriminate here.
I know.
Be careful.
Be careful.
They're all very equal fats.
They found a lot more brown fat, which is good. Prevents atherosclerosis and cholesterol levels. Increases insulin sensitivity, which is good. Increases bone health. And the more brown fat activation you can get, because most of the things that we do only activate the white fat. And apparently, I think brown fat is like a new thing that's been found within the last maybe 10 years, because I'd never really heard about it in school or anything like that. So again, that's maybe getting a little bit more into the weeds, but it's just something to say that it all leads back to the same thing of like stressing your body in the right way will help activate the defense mechanisms, which in turn will help you live longer. So that was the main focus of that podcast. I think we're kind of getting more into the supplements and the drugs part of it, which is going to be really interesting.
Okay, let's talk through this a second then. So does he have a prescription for sauna? How many times per week? How long?
So he actually doesn't do it that regularly.
Yeah.
He'll do it just like, if you went to his friend Laird Hamilton's house, he'll go into like the super hot sauna and go into the cold tub. But it's not like a super common thing just because he doesn't have a ton of access to it.
Right.
I think I didn't get into a real big research as what the best protocol is for it. I know there's a lot of the cold is very, very good.
The fitness guy I followed had sauna at 1 to 3 times a week for 10 to 15 minutes. Okay. He didn't have a super strict cold thing. I have a friend in town who bought an at-home sauna and an at-home cold plunge, which is not that expensive off like an Amazon thing or whatever. So it's something that, and they're pretty small too. The sauna is like not that big, and obviously a cold plunge is just literally the thing you sit in. Just so freaking cold, man. That's tough. Like I hate being cold.
I jumped into your pool.
Oh, yeah, that's
probably why I got COVID, honestly.
Yeah,
and it was shockingly cold, and it was probably only 50 45 degrees. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like, what is the water you're sitting in? There's ice in it, right?
Probably,
it's gotta be colder.
Yeah, probably 40s, I guess.
Unbelievable. I couldn't wait to get out of that pool. I shot from the bottom out of the pool.
Yeah, sauna is one that I have not been able to successfully implement regularly. I've read about it too and believe in it, and I'll add it.
I'm going to start. My gym has it, and no one ever uses it.
It's you literally just have to sit there, right? Like it shouldn't be that hard to just sit somewhere for 10 minutes.
That's right.
But all right, I can add that on. So I'm going to add. Cool. I'm going to add another day of zone 2. I'm going to add the sauna, and I think that's it for now. I'll start small, but that's all good info.
I'll do it too. I'm going to do sauna once a week. Do we want to do sauna probably after a workout, right?
Yeah. You want to make sure you're hydrating. Oh, Matt, you need to get on these supplements. So 2 supplements I think you'd really benefit from. Essential amino acids being one, and making sure if you get it unflavored, it tastes pretty bad. So you might want to get a flavor in there. That's going to be something you're going to drink intra workout, along with
called essential amino acid.
Yeah, essential amino acid powder. Along with I'm going to butcher the name. Branch cyclic dextrin. It's a carb powder, and when I take both of those,
sounds like some steroid shit.
No, it's not. It's a very easily digestible carb. It's like a simple carb. It's just for energy.
Okay.
And it's not like something that's going to wire you up. It's not like a pre-workout. It's just like a sustained. Yeah. When I take both of those at the workout at the gym, I feel great. And this is something that my guy recommends. I've loved them.
Interesting.
And as I said on one of the other podcasts, like when you're having these different powders that you're having to drink, you got your pre-workout. I take an electrolyte powder that's flavored. When you have like 4 powders to drink, you just drink so much more water inherently. So my workout days, I'm done with 3 liters by like 2:00. Like I am just powering through water, and you don't even realize it. And I would also recommend you buy these. They have a 45-ounce shaker bottle on Amazon. So you fill that puppy up with 40 ounces of water. You have these 3 powders. That's a lot of your day that you're supposed to have water wise. That everything else after that is gravy. It just makes you hydrate so much better.
Okay.
And that's why I would always be trying to finish my daily intake of water later at night, and you really should be cutting off water,
2 hours.
Yeah. I don't have much water 2 hours before bed. Especially not like an hour before bed. I wouldn't have any. Because we all know how important sleep is, and one of the big, interrupters of our sleep is getting up to have to pee. Mm-hmm. We don't want that. While our prostates and stuff still work. So, yeah, highly recommend those things.
All right.
And this is the year of health. We
really are.
This is the health year for all our listeners and us.
I hope we can, let's all get on this, guys. Let's all help each other out.
I mean, now's the time, right? Like, we don't want to wait till we're old men and women and all of a sudden we have to play catch up. Like, we're still at a youngish age, and let's act like it.
Pretty much just get off your ass.
Get off your ass. I mean, we all lead busy lives. People are dentists are busy all day, but you can see this stuff doesn't take that long. Like, what did you say? 30, 40 minutes is zone 2? Like, that's not that long.
And you don't have to do like that is like what his main clients do. You could do 20 minutes a day of zone 2, which is literally like probably, walking up a slight incline or lightly biking, or I mean, like anything, honestly, anything.
Yeah. And like Matt said, this is all optimal stuff. Like 4 times a week, zone 2, optimal. If you're at 0 or 1, just get to 1 or 2. I mean, just go move forward somehow.
And your zones are optimized to you, right? Your zone 2 is different than my zone 2. Yeah. If you're a beginner, like your zone 2 literally might just be walking.
Yeah.
Whereas like Matt said, his zone 2 probably isn't just walking anymore. It's probably like either light jogging or like a little bit harder biking or something like that. So that's cool about it, is that like you can start no matter where you're at, just like start doing something.
Yeah. This is why I love getting a dog, because it makes you walk twice a day. You have to, or that dog will literally die. so if you want to be a lazy slob, that's one thing, but you're now killing your pet. You can't do that.
Can't do that. No, that's where we draw the line. Don't F with cats or dogs.
All right. So a reminder to everyone, bdppod.com. If you're listening to this on the podcast form, bdppod.com for questions. We love questions.
Yeah, that was a really good question today.
It was. I'd love like 3 or 4 more similar questions of some sort. Yeah. So please send them in. If you're listening on the podcast form, we are on YouTube. It comes out every Friday. Please listen to us. You can see me in my Packers jersey and see all my mannerisms, my nervous habits, everything I'm ashamed of. You can see at a very high definition camera.
You can see my guitars.
Yes.
Yeah, the one time I'm on like the nicest camera, I look like the biggest pile of garbage.
Do you want to strum us out with a little something?
Nah.
No? Okay.
I'm not on the spot.
We'll get back to our music then. You have been listening to the $1 Billion Podcast. Thank you so much for doing so. We'll see you all next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.